medals. Okay, so I'm really eager to talk about this all-female Lord of the Flies thing and why it's so stupid, so I really want to get to that. But before I get to that, I first want to talk about this cartoon that came out in Politico. If you want to know why there's a cultural divide in this country, it's because even the things that ought to bring us together can still be used to tear us apart. Okay, here is a cartoon that came out yesterday from Politico. The author, the creator of this atrocity, his name is Matt Worker, I believe, and if you can't see it, what it shows is a helicopter with the U.S. logo on it, trying to rescue a guy. The guy is obviously supposed to be a Texan, right? And he is sitting there in a shirt that is a Confederate flag and a cowboy hat and boots. For some reason, his jeans are tucked into his boots. I've never met a Texan who actually tucks his jeans into his boots. But in any case, he's there in a basket, and next to him is a flag that says, "Don't tread on me," as he's being picked up from the waters. And then the guy is shouting, "Angels sent by God." And then there's a house next to him, and the water is up to the roof of the house. And on top, there is a sign that says secede, like Texas secede. And then a little girl on top of the roof, and a rescuer who is trying to put a life jacket on the little girl, and it says, actually Coast Guard sent by the government. So not angels sent by God, Coast Guard sent by the government. There are so many things wrong with this idiotic comic that it's almost impossible to hit them all. Number one, let's begin with the caricature of religious people, this angel sent by God routine. Okay, this is so intensely stupid, I can't even tell you. The reason this is so intensely stupid is because religious people don't actually believe that angels are going to save them from the water. They believe that human beings can sometimes act as instruments of God's will in saving them. Okay, there's a very famous religious joke. Every religious person knows this joke, but for those who are not religious in the audience, this is something religious people tell. This is a religious person joke, okay? Here's the joke. Isn't that good? But here's the joke. Okay, the joke is there's a flood, and there's a guy who's trapped in the flood. And so he prays to God, and he says, "God, please send me help." And next thing he knows, a car drives up and says, "Hop in, dude. It's time to get out of here." And he says, "Listen, I've talked to God. God is going to send me help." So the car drives away. Next thing that happens, a boat comes up. And the guy in the boat says, "Jump in." And the religious guy says, "No, no, no. I've prayed to God. God will help me." So the boat motors away. And here comes a helicopter. And the helicopter comes and says to the religious guy, "Dude, jump in," lowers a rope to him. He says, "No, no, no. God is going to save me." So naturally, he drowns. And then he goes up to heaven, and he says to God, "Hey, I prayed. Where were you?" And God says, "I sent you a boat. I sent you a car, a boat, and a helicopter." What do you mean, where was I? Okay, that's how religious people actually think of this sort of thing. So this idea that it's angels sent by God, like they don't understand that it's actually the Coast Guard. It can be both the Coast Guard and also human beings can act as angels in times of need. In fact, little known fact about Hebrew that our non-Jewish friends probably don't know, the word for angel is malach in Hebrew. The word for messenger in Hebrew is malach. So human messenger and angel are the same exact word in Hebrew. Okay, so it just demonstrates there's an identity here. Human beings can act as messengers of the Lord, even when they are acting in pursuit of their everyday duties. So this idea that we're all just a bunch of religious morons is ridiculous. Second of all, the idea that this guy's wearing a Confederate shirt, and that means obviously that he must be a racist redneck. It's worth noting that the precincts that have been flooded in this hurricane voted for Hillary Clinton overwhelmingly. Overwhelmingly, they voted for Hillary Clinton. In fact, the state of New Jersey voted in fewer numbers for Hillary Clinton than these districts did by percentage. So it was a bunch of Democrats getting hit by this hurricane. So they're ripping on the people of Texas as though they are uniformly Trump voters. Not even true. Okay, finally, when it says it's the Coast Guard sent by the government, how dare people in Texas think that they want to secede? Okay, let's be clear about this. The vast majority of resources that are being brought to bear in Houston are local and state. They are not federal resources. Federal resources provide the vast minority of support. That means that even if Texas were to secede, do you think they really wouldn't have any sort of Coast Guard facilities? Texas is a very wealthy state. Texas has its own nuclear weapons in the Air National Guard. The idea that Texas is going to, I mean, they're under federal auspices, but still, the idea that Texas is going to go completely broke if it were to secede, they wouldn't be able to rescue their own citizens, is absolute nonsense, considering the people who are actually rescuing their citizens are folks who are working for the state of Texas. And just because you believe in state sovereignty, just because you believe in state power under the Constitution, does not mean that you're against the government helping you out with your own taxpayer dollars. I mean, that's why we pay for fire services. This is why we pay for the police. So this cartoon is so stupid in every way, but what it's really designed to do is suggest that Texans are just a bunch of loonbags who don't understand the beauty of government. If they just understood the power of government and the beauty of government, then they would get behind a bigger, stronger government and spend more money, and they wouldn't be these crazy Trump voters that they are. That's what this cartoon is supposed to mean. It's cruel, it's nasty, and it's stupid all at once. It's especially stupid because the fact is that how are Texans acting during this? They're not sitting around waiting to be rescued. This is a picture tweeted out by a radio host named Michael Berry. This is the 12. This is a picture of a bunch of people in Texas in line. Can we grab that? It's okay. There it is. Okay, so you can see this giant line of people. Is that giant line of people waiting to get services? Is that a giant line of people at a food bank? No, it turns out that these are a bunch of people in the center of Houston who are waiting in line to volunteer. Look at the size of that line. Hundreds of people waiting in line to volunteer. Those are the people that this idiot asshat, Matt Worker, is ripping on in Texas. Okay, those are the people of Texas. Those are the people who are helping each other out. Charlie Hebdo did exactly the same routine, except more blatant. Charlie Hebdo, which is, at least they're equal opportunity offenders. They went after Muslim, Mohammedan, and Islam in such a way that they ended up as the target for a terrorist attack a few years back, as you recall. Charlie Hebdo ran a cartoon that showed a bunch. It says, "Dieu existe." I don't speak French, so I assume that means God exists. And they are celebrating the flood because it's a bunch of people. You can't see it, but I'll describe it to you. It's a bunch of hands going up in the Heil Hitler salute and a bunch of Nazi flags that are halfway underwater. So it's a bunch of Nazis who are drowned. It says the cover of the magazine is totally captioned, "God exists. He drowned all the neo-Nazis of Texas." Again, the districts were a bunch of Democrats. Second, the people of Texas are not neo-Nazis. This is insane. The racial makeup of the city is not. Let me give you the racial makeup of the city of Texas according to the census of 2000. Okay, it's 49.3% white, which includes Hispanic. Okay, 25% black or African American. So that means that this is one of the most diverse cities in America, and they're saying that it's a bunch of white supremacists. But again, the left stereotypes have no end here, and they're really quite horrifying and disgusting. And you wonder why people react by saying that they'll vote for Trump? It's because they're reacting to stupidity like this. It's because they're reacting to grossness like this. Okay, so the truth is that the vast majority of people are not reacting well to these sorts of cartoons. Even the left was a little upset with Politico revealing the hard left's biases. Charlie Hebdo's cartoon is not going over like gangbusters, but it does demonstrate the cultural stereotyping that goes on of people in Texas, that everybody thinks that people in Texas are a bunch of rednecks outside of Texas, and that cultural divide is getting worse, not better. I mean, to the point where when Chris Pratt, the actor, said at one point that Hollywood doesn't do a good job of appealing to blue-collar Americans outside the major cities, and he was ripped up and down by the left and then forced to backtrack. It's true. Hollywood does a horrible job of demonstrating what it is for people who live outside the major cities, because the vast majority of people who populate our pop culture are folks who are from major cities. They're people from LA. I've lived here my entire life. People from New York, people from Chicago. They mostly come from big cities. The myth of the person who comes from Kansas and hits it big in Hollywood, it happens, it's true, but the vast majority of people who work in Hollywood are from Hollywood. The vast majority of people who write are from New York or Hollywood. The vast majority of people making our entertainment are like that, and that's why they have such scorn for people that they've never met halfway across the country who are suffering at this time. Okay, so
this is the sort of scene that we saw back in February. Destruction of property, fires, rioting in the area. But Ben Shapiro is determined to have his say when he goes there, and they're happy to have him now that they've declared this, quote, free speech year. I wonder what happens next year, or what happened last year, for that matter, at the institution. But anyway, they are insisting that the college Republicans pay $15 grand for security when Ben Shapiro speaks there. And this comes days after the school's chancellor touted this new free speech initiative at Berkeley. Watch.
I believe that any attack on free speech, no matter how abhorrent the views are that are expressed, is an attack on the right of free speech for us all.
Well, there you go. So now, a $15,000 man, Ben Shapiro, editor-in-chief of DailyWire.com. Ben, good evening. Good to see you. So what do you think about this fee? Is it fair? Are you going to pay it? And what are you going to get for it, I guess, is the biggest question.
I mean, Young America's Foundation has already said that they're going to pay the fee. As far as it being fair, no. I mean, life isn't fair, I guess. They should be providing security. I'm a taxpayer in the state of California. I promise you I pay much more than that in taxes to the state of California every year. So I guess I get to pay for the security twice over. But here's sort of what I'm telling people who want to come. We have a 2,000-seat stadium or auditorium that is opening up. They haven't provided the link yet, but you can go over to YAF.org, and you can start to reserve your seat there.
what I've been saying to people is don't show up ready to do battle with Antifa. We foresee that Antifa will probably show up and try to cause violence. Do not come ready to do violence in defense of my free speech rights. We just paid so that Berkeley will do it, right? Either Berkeley is going to protect my free speech rights or they're not. Now we get to see as a nation whether Berkeley is going to keep its word to protect free speech even when Antifa shows up. And the last thing that I want is some bloody battle out in the streets with people who think they're protecting my free speech rights who aren't members of the government. The whole point here is that Berkeley and their administration have to do the job they've been pledging to do.
You know, I mean, we've seen what happened here in the past, and we're showing it again. I think one of the biggest concerns is whether or not the police will intercede. In some of these situations, we've seen them reluctant to get in the middle of it, I guess in part for fear of causing, you know, things to escalate even further. But you see the destruction that happens when they don't.
100%. 100%. I mean, we had the situation at Cal State Los Angeles, and we actually had to file a lawsuit against Cal State Los Angeles because we felt that the police had been told to stand down by the administration. So this, again, is going to be a test of the administration. It's going to be a test of the police. Are you going to fulfill your promise to protect free speech, or are you just going to sound off about it in the press and then allow Antifa and the far left to do whatever they want to shut down speech with which they disagree?